On this developing story, we're joined now by Tennessee Congressman Mark Green. Congressman, I know you've been following this story throughout the night and, of course, into the morning as we're learning more about what is just a tragic situation. Just want to get your initial reaction to this.
Yeah, my initial reaction was, how did this happen? I have, as a flight surgeon in the Army's premier Special Operations Aviation Unit, I just don't see how this could happen. This is probably the most deconflicted airspace in the country, with the amount of radar to protect, of course, the president and our government, seat of government. So, when did ATC recognize there was a potential conflict? Those are questions we have to look into. What the pilots actually saw in that military aircraft looks like they kind of came up from behind or to the side of the commercial aircraft. Typically in these types of things, and I've done these investigations, the human side of it, the pilots help and all that stuff. When a crash happens, the flight surgeon does that. It's always multiple errors that lead to these kinds of things. It's not just one thing, but that's what the NTSB will do. They'll dig into it and figure it out. But I'm just amazed at how it could happen in this airspace and, with a military aircraft.
One of the things we've been hearing off and on all morning long, and obviously, as Charlotte and I are both very familiar with Washington, as you are as well, it's one of the most crowded airspaces and most regulated airspaces in the country. There was a lot of discussion post 9/11 about whether Reagan National should actually reopen, given its proximity to so many critical national security infrastructures. I mean, is it getting to the point where Reagan is just too crowded with the military, with the commercial, all the things that are going on there?
Now, I think this could have easily been deconflicted. This should not have happened. Something went wrong. Just saying, okay, we're going to shut this airport down, I think is the wrong answer. It's figuring out why the deconfliction didn't happen, what those errors were, and making sure those don't happen again. I think that's the airport serves economic benefit to this community, and it should be able to be deconflicted.
And as you mentioned, you're a flight surgeon, a decorated combat veteran, an ER physician as well. You've been on these helicopters multiple times before. And we have to ask the question that Sean Duffy was asked. Why did this helicopter, because that's what it looks like from the video, that this helicopter came into the flight path of this American Airlines flight? Was this just a simple thing of miscommunication?
That's very possible that miscommunications played a role in it. But, these Blackhawks, I see them all the time flying up the Potomac River. It's a part of their quals. They have to respond to crises. They may very well have to fly in and be a part of a rescue or something like that. So having the pilots fly those missions is critical. Again, it comes to airspace deconfliction, and that there's many different pieces to that. There's, of course, the air traffic controls part. There's technology on the aircraft that keep them from colliding. Getting into finding out what the status of that equipment was. Whose hands were at the sticks on the helicopter. All of those things will be a part of the investigation, and they'll figure out the contributing factors to the crash. I heard this question on several channels last night about it being a training flight. It's not like it's some kind of brand new pilot who's first time at the sticks. The military trains continuously. They log X number of hours every month, and we call those training missions. So it's not like it's some brand new pilot at the sticks.
One of the things that strikes me is that the last time we had a major fatal accident at Reagan National, then it was just DCA. Back in 1982, Air Florida crash. It was blamed on icing, and the entire industry went through a massive shift after that accident in the Potomac, where it ended up back in that day. And so do you sense that we're going to see some major industry-wide shift based on, especially around Reagan National, but even around the entire industry based on this tragedy?
Well, I'm sure, the NTSB does an amazing job of communicating what went wrong to the industry. And there will no doubt be changes, at least in this airspace, I would think, to make sure that whatever mistakes occurred don't happen again. And the fact that we haven't had one of these for 40 years shows that how the industry learns is robust. It's good. So This will involve a massive after-action review, analysis, and that information will be sent out. And hopefully there'll be changes that make sure it doesn't happen again.
And of course, you're looking at video there of that 1982 crash that Mark mentioned as well. There were survivors. Then, of course, we know now there are no survivors. Being a physician, and you've seen the video, even though it was, dark and grainy, I don't see how anyone could have survived something of this magnitude, right?
One of the things that we do, as a flight surgeon, you're part of the crew and you do the egress drills that the pilots do because you're in the aircraft with them, and dunker training where they drop the helicopter in the water and you have to try to find your way out with a blacked out mask. It's incredibly difficult. You have to, know where the openings are and feel your way. You think of those civilians, that's not something they're trained to do. So when that aircraft hits the water, them unbuckling, grabbing a deep breath and trying to find their way out in cold black water, it's just almost impossible. And a plunge of 400 feet, most of them were probably unconscious at impact. So,
yeah. And we know that they're still trying to recover 39 bodies. They have recovered 27 from the plane, 1 from the helicopter. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, Congressman.
Thanks.
Really appreciate
Prayers
talking
to
to
the
you.
family.
Yes, absolutely.